game unfolds. We'll also follow all the actionable props as they cash during the game. Plus, we'll have live in-game numbers from the South Point's brain trust of odds makers setting the lines as the game unfolds. Ron Flatter will provide betting updates from the book. Windy City Sam will have updates from the party at the Downtown Event Center. And you won't want to miss our special halftime show. I'll be the anchor, and I'll be joined by Gil Alexander, Mitch Moss, and Polly Howard. They'll give their expert opinions on the first half action and what to look for in the second half. We'll have opinions you can bet on. It's VSiN's Big Game Betcast, live on February 3rd at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific on SiriusXM 204, VSiN.com, the VSiN app, and Fubo TV. Tune into VSiN during the big game to take sharp action on the live action.
Welcome back to Betting Across America. Now back to Michael Lombardi and Jonathan Von Tobel.
All right, back here on the program, wrapping it up on Betting Across America. Keep in mind, Betting Across America will stick around. Sammy P will take over here at the desk. Then Gil will follow up with a mix of Mitch and Paul as we lead you up to our big game betcast. Michael Lombardi, Jonathan Von Tobel, and Amal Shah with you at the desk. You're very excited to welcome in the Muss Bus.
My man, the Muss. Eric Musselman. Eric and I go back to when he was the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, and he was doing a good job. But that was when the Warriors didn't have a lot of talent. Yeah. Muss was with a lot of depleted players, and so we formed a friendship ever since then. And I've watched him grow in his career, and everywhere he goes, he wins. It's just as predicted, whether he's coaching the Laker developmental team or coaching the University of Nevada Arena, they win.
Now, Eric, thank you for the time and joining us today. We should, full disclosure, I went to UNLV. This is the Vegas Stats and Information Network, so not everybody in the room is entirely happy right now.
Well, first of all, it's awesome to come on with you and Michael and Amal, JVT. Thanks, man. I appreciate you guys having me on today.
Well, first of all, Coach, great job. I've seen the way you execute. I love your intensity on the sideline. But I have to tell you, we talk about the Martin twins. These guys are excellent. I was at the game the other night, and I'll tell you what, you look at your team, it looks like an NBA team from a size standpoint. But the guy I want to talk about is Jordan Caroline. That is a grown man inside. I love his intensity and the way he plays. Your team's execution is just outstanding. I've said all along, you guys are the best team on the West Coast. I think you got a chance to get to the Final Four. But what makes him so good? Because I think he gets a little bit overlooked when you talk about the Martin twins.
Yeah, I think from a scoring standpoint, obviously Cody and Caleb Martin. Cody's got the ball in his hands at the point guard position for us, and then Caleb's one of our go-to scorers. But Jordan Caroline, just an incredible athlete. His father is former NFL great Simeon Rice, and JC just does an incredible job of getting the loose balls and creating extra possessions. He's a player that seeks contact at that small forward spot for us. I think the most unique thing, and it's kind of gotten lost in our season storyline, is last year he played the 5 spot for us the whole year in the NCAA tournament at 6'7". He's guarding Mo Bamba, a lottery pick. And then this year, because we went out and got filled needs to get a bigger, taller team, up front, we moved Jordan Caroline to the small forward spot. And so there's not many players in the country that can go from a 5 spot to the small forward spot and be equally effective at either position, and that just shows his versatility.
Eric, talk about where your team is right now. Everybody's been picking on you about slow starts, but you come back and you win. And now your team seems to be like hitting another stride. From the New Mexico game, you feel like you've been hitting another stride. How much progress do you feel like you've seen in your team from the New Mexico game to right now?
Well, I think a tremendous amount, Michael. I think that, the one thing that we've really done a great job in the first 3 years is as the season progressed, we've become better and better. And, we're a preseason top 10 team, and I was really worried early in the season how we would handle those pressures. But we kind of got through that stretch, and then we ran into a game that we played bad. New Mexico played great. And everybody really was playing zone defense. They thought that was the formula to beat us. And quite frankly, we struggled against some zone defenses. We became less aggressive. We were too passive. We played what we call high school Harry basketball, where we kept the ball above our heads. We weren't in triple threat position to score, shoot, dribble, pass. And so what we did, Michael, is we went back and started studying FIBA national teams from other countries. Greece in 2009 ran an incredible zone offense against China. And so we tried to pick apart different pieces of philosophies from a zone offensive standpoint. Now we're equally as good against zone as we are man-to-man, and I think that's been the turning point for us from an offensive standpoint.
Well, Eric, that's very Belichickian of you to do that. Seriously. I mean, that is – no, I mean that as a complete compliment. I mean, that would be something Belichick, and I know both of you really well, would do, and I think that's the value of having experience as a coach and understanding what you have to do, because ultimately your challenge, and address this, your challenge isn't about the next opponent. Your challenge is peaking your team at the right time, much like the Patriots have peaked at the right time.
I don't think there's any doubt, especially in the college season, guys are going to class. The social media, internet stuff has become so powerful, and the biggest challenge maybe going into the season for us was, out of our top 7 rotation guys, 6 of them are seniors, all 6 fifth-year seniors. And were we going to be able to keep everybody on the same page where everybody had one agenda, and that was how do we win a basketball game instead of individual stuff? And these guys have done an incredible job of that, and I think they're starting to understand that word, peaking at the right time, and they're sharing the ball much better even than we did early in the year. And I think that any great team has to try to peak at the appropriate time.
Eric, when you look at the Mountain West Conference overall, we talk about obviously looking at these games and trying to predict outcomes. And one of the common threads that we use when we talk about Mountain West basketball is some of these road trips are tough for teams. You've obviously had experience here in the conference the last few years. You know about the Pit, trips to Laramie, where I think last year you guys had like a double overtime game against Wyoming. Viejas is interesting. Talk a little bit about the road trips that you have to make as a head coach in the Mountain West. And is there some truth to the fact that these are some interesting, unique, and tough road venues?
There's no question, there's easy trips from Reno to get to Las Vegas is obviously easy. To get to San Diego State's easy. But even to get to Fresno, we have to take, a 5.5-hour bus ride. To get to San Jose State's 5.5-hour bus ride. To get to Laramie, Wyoming, it's fly into Denver and then take a 2.5-hour bus ride. And, oh, by the way, hope that there's not a snowstorm and there's no delays. But it's really, really challenging. Even to get to Colorado State, it's into Denver, 1.5-hour bus ride. And because most, schools, programs in our conference do not charter, it becomes even more difficult to win on the road. And the thing that we've learned to have a greater appreciation for is when you have this target on your back and you're everybody's Super Bowl every single night we go on the road. It's the opposing team's biggest crowd, biggest student section. It's their T-shirt night, promotional-wise, and it's been very, very difficult to take everybody's best swing every single night. And we still have 5 more road games to try to get through it and play at a high level.
Coach, how have you managed the expectations? You've been around professional sports your whole life. For you, it's a little bit easier, but all of a sudden this team returning everybody, being in a smaller city like Reno, and this team potentially expected to not only get to the Final Four, but cut down the nets. I think your team has done a great job through 22 games, 21-1. But you guys have really done a great job of managing the expectations. So many times we see teams come into a season, have expectations, and then they're fighting just to make a tournament bid.
I think the expectation thing, even for me, I'm new in the college game. I was only an assistant coach 2 years at ASU, 1 year at LSU, and both of those positions as an assistant coach, we lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament, both Arizona State and LSU. And then as a collegiate player, I made 2 NCAA tournaments, and we lost both of those in the first round. My second year here at Nevada, we made the tournament. We lost in the first round to Iowa State. But then last year, being a part of the Sweet 16, advancing, coming back against Texas, being down double digits, coming down against Cincinnati and overcoming double digits, and then only losing by 2 points or 1 point, I guess, to Loyola in a game that we played horrific and should have won if we would have played even our B game. I think the expectations with our guys, they put it in perspective. They understand, and we talk about it every day, how hard it is to win a game. And Chuck Daly used to always talk about, as soon as the referee throws that ball up, it's a 50-50 chance every night. And the minute you start losing sight of that's when you're going to get whacked and take an L. And so our guys have handled the expectations phenomenal.
Eric, you're a great follow on Twitter. For any young coach who wants to learn about the game, Eric, he quotes different coaches. You can learn. He used to have a great blog at one time. So let's focus this on Super Bowl Sunday. Who do you like in the game, and what are you going to do to watch the game? Your team going to watch it together? How are you guys going to handle it?
Well, I can't wait to watch it. I think the Patriots will win because I think the experience just, even what you do during the week, and I don't know anything about football really other than just being a fan, but what you do during the week, I think the experience that the Patriots have is, pays off, and that's a huge advantage, and we will not watch it as a team. Our guys want to get away from me. Our Sundays, through the NCAA rules, usually most teams take Sundays off, so they got to get away from me for the day. We've been invited to a bunch of Super Bowl parties, but my wife, because she was a media member with the NFL, we are going to watch it alone and try to critique both coaches during the course of the game.
and is Mariah going to offer any commentary during the game at all? His daughter, last year she was a national celebrity.
Well, the only thing Mariah is going to do is interfere with Danielle and I watching the game. She will probably be asking us to turn on some music so she can dance in front of the TV screen, which will irritate the heck out of both of us.
By the way, can I just make everyone at UNR mad? Dan Guerrero, pick up the phone and call Eric Musselman. You got your next head coach.
The other thing that must talk to me a little bit about, I marvel at your team's conditioning. How much time do you spend on conditioning, or do you just feel like you get it during your practice sessions?
Well, Michael, that's we had a plan coming in, how do we peak in year 4? And we wanted to build in year 1, 2, 3, leading up to our 4th year. And so what we've had is every year we've had 4 players sitting out. So you only have 13 scholarships, 4 guys sitting out. That's a really limited roster, 9 guys. And so because of that, we have put an incredible premium on conditioning in the off season. We go up to Lake Tahoe, which is about 35 minutes from campus. We'll do sand sprints. We'll run hills. We'll do long distance runs. And every single day leading up to our first practice, we try to spend as much time on conditioning and physical fitness as we actually do on basketball, because if you look at the minutes played, and a lot of people who are basketball fans and know my dad with the Timberwolves basically never subbed, and Tom Thibodeau and I are very, very close, and Coach Tibbs never subs when he's coaching a team. And last night, although we won 93-73, we ended up playing Caleb Martin 40 minutes, Cody Martin 36 minutes, and Jordan Caroline 37 minutes in a 20-point game. And those guys are just conditioned and programmed to play through fatigue, and I think it really has to be built through the off season.
Well, and that's got to be an extension of you, right? I mean, Amal mentioned that he was at the game the other night at Thomas & Mack. So was I. And I'm watching with 90 seconds left. You're screaming. You're setting up plays. You're yelling about a towel on the floor. I mean, from first whistle to last whistle, you're in it 100%, like you're still tied nothing.
Well, I think that, coaching, even last night, we ran a play with about 42 seconds to go, and one of the guys didn't execute it properly. And so when we get together in our next film session, we're going to talk about that execution, because as long as there's a scoreboard up, whether you're in practice or a game, I think you've got to constantly be teaching, constantly reinforcing execution, and never let any slip up. And so that's just kind of how we run our program. And the cool thing is our guys get it. We'll get back in the locker room and they'll make fun of me, for being into the game with, up 18 or 19 with 30 seconds to go. But they understand that those are the expectations of what we want to try to accomplish.
That goes to the old adage, JVT, you're either coaching it or allowing it to happen. And so, right there, that's the perfect example. That's the difference between good coaches and great coaches. Because if you let that go, you're allowing it to happen. But fans don't realize that you let that happen just once, then it happens twice, then it happens 3 times, and then the guys like us are complaining they're not winning enough games, and then you lose your job. So, you got to stay on it because then the culture that he's building is reflective of that. And Amal's right. I mean, how UCLA doesn't see it, I don't know.
Well, then you see it on the floor, too. You took over a 9-win program, and here you are. You're ranked 8th in the country, and you're on the verge of going to tournament yet again and competing for a national title. That's Eric Musselman, Nevada head coach. You can follow him on Twitter at Eric P. Musselman. Eric, thank you for the time. Really appreciate it, sir.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks. Appreciate it. JVT, Amal, thanks for having me. It was awesome.
Thank you, Coach.
All right. By the way, there was somebody in the Thomas and Mack that was letting things happen as opposed to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, and Amal's right. I mean, this guy has been a great coach. His dad was a great coach. I mean, I've been with Muss. We've hung out together, and I mean, he is every bit Belichickian in his approach on what he does. Well, and he's got a vision. I mean, just the story about how he went back and watched the basketball of that. I mean, if you're a young coach, you got to find different answers out. Not that he's a young coach, but he's an experienced coach looking for answers.
Michael, if he can win at UNR, not the easiest place to recruit to.
Right.
He's got, 7 guys that are starting that played this year that are transfers in. They're going to be able to win at UCLA. And look, I'm not trying to put a coach out of his current situation and go somewhere else, but UCLA is the gold standard in this business, and he's a guy, to me, that can take them back to where the Bruins want to be. As
Belichick has often said, it's not that complicated, and him being at UCLA is not that complicated.
Nope, no, it is not. It's getting easier. That's also what Belichick. Huh?
Yeah, I tell him that. I tell him that. It's getting easier for you. Then he blows me off. Yeah.
Right.
And he knows I'm right.